Hello guys, welcome back. I hope you're all doing great. So in today's video, I want to talk about fragrance discoveries. I have here 8 fragrances. Some are samples, some are full bottles, some are on my wish list. I think that all 8 of them are super versatile in terms of season and weather. I think a lot of these are great for the summer and the warm weather, while I think most of them are super versatile and can be worn in any season. So let's start with a sample that I have here from the house of Voyages, Imaginaires. This is a sample of Tea and Rock and Roll. I was really looking forward to getting my nose on this fragrance. I heard great things. I have it here pre-dabbed on the blotter. And I've been testing this out and really enjoying this. So the noses behind this fragrance, and I believe all of the fragrances in the Voyages Imaginaires perfume house, are Camille Goutal, who's Annick Goutal's daughter, and Isabelle Doyen. And this fragrance was released in 2020, and it's basically a citrus tea fragrance. There's mate tea in here, there's bergamot, and it's fresh, it's clean, but at the same time, you have this tea that interplays with the bergamot and the citrus aspect of the fragrance, so that it's not too zesty, it's not too citrusy, it's not too tart. It sort of tones down the citrus scent profile so that you do have a clean, fresh fragrance, but there's this interesting tea accord, tea note counterpart, which is really smooth, and I find it very comforting. I'm not a fan of tea fragrances. This one is not too smoky, it's not too dark, and it's not too zingy and citrusy in terms of the fresh aspect, citrus aspect of the fragrance. I enjoy it. I think it's nice for the fall weather, probably more than it is in the summer, even though it is a fresh fragrance and it's citrus at the heart. I think the tea, even though it's strongest in the opening, I feel like it subsides as the fragrance dries down. So this has mate, bergamot, lime. There's also leather and tonka bean. So the sweetness is very mild. I'm not getting anything leathery about this fragrance whatsoever. And that lime just adds sort of a brightness in the opening until the tea comes in and starts to play its role. So it's really nice. It's soft. And it's a delicate sort of citrus tea fragrance. And I like that the tea is not too strong and smoky. It's a nice one. I like this. Tea and Rock and Roll from the house of Voyages Imaginaires. So the next one is also a citrus fragrance. This is from the house of Labo. I've been talking a lot about Labo fragrances. This is Bergamot 22. This is an official sample, but I do own a full bottle of this. I really enjoy this fragrance. And like the other fragrances from Labo, most of them, I feel like it never actually, the scent profile never actually matches the name. This one is the same for me. So even though this is Bergamot 22, you expect this to be all about the bergamot. Yes, it's fresh. Yes, it's citrusy. Yes, it's about bergamot. But in my opinion, and you guys may not agree, this is a lot about the vetiver. I feel like it is as much a vetiver fragrance as it is a bergamot citrus fragrance. And I really do love it for that reason. I like this for the same reason that I like Tea and Rock and Roll. But Tea and Rock and Roll, in terms of the citrus aspect, is more effervescent than this one. So this is even less effervescent in terms of the citrus components than Tea and Rock and Roll, and I love it. It's fresh and fluffy. Yes, it's citrusy, and yes, the bergamot is from the orange rind, and there's definitely something orangey about it and smooth, but it's fluffy. And then the vetiver sort of meets this bergamot, and I get a lot of the vetiver. I get a lot of green, like fresh green cut grass, together with this freshness from the citruses And there's something very earthy and almost rooty about the vetiver in here, or about the fragrance. And I also get something a little bit nutty. I feel like I get something nutty with the vetiver, and the vetiver, in my opinion, here is pronounced. There are a bunch of notes in here. There's bergamot, there's cedarwood, there's musk, there's petitgrain, there is the vetiver, there is the amber, there's also grapefruit and orange blossom. So the citrus is not only coming from the bergamot, it's also coming from the grapefruit. And you have the orange blossom that gives a little bit of floral, a little bit of sweet and green. So there's green in here, there's citrus in here, there's mild sweetness in here, but the vetiver plays a big role. I think it's earthy. I think it's a little bit like rooty. I think it's like fresh cut green grass. The fragrance overall is fresh, and I really enjoy this as a fresh citrusy fragrance. I like that the citrus components, that effervescence is a little bit muted, so that you're not wearing lemons or oranges. You're not wearing straight up lemons or oranges. That sounds fresh and juicy, but that is muted. So it's fresh, but it's muted with vetiver. I think the vetiver is huge in here. Just like the citruses are muted by the tea, but this one is even less effervescent. I like this. So that's Bergamot 22. So the next one is from the House of Arquiste. This is L'Or de Louis, and this is a 2023 release. The nose behind this fragrance is Rodrigo Flores Roux, who I think is the nose behind all the fragrances in the House of Arquiste. I could be wrong. This is a great one, and this is like the two that we spoke about so far. Great for the warm weather, great for summer. It's a white, floral, musky fragrance where, in my opinion, the orange blossom in here is sort of center stage. Even though there's jasmine, even though there's iris in here, and it's like a nice, soft, musky, white floral, I think the orange blossom is most prominent. So you have a little bit of sweetness, you have a little bit of freshness, you have a little bit of that orangey citrus that comes along with the orange blossom. But then you have this muskiness, and you have this iris that makes things a little bit powdery. The jasmine is adding just a touch of floral maybe in this beautiful sort of orange blossom bouquet. But I do think that the fragrance is musky in the way that it wears and is delivered. And there's a lot of green in here, so that it's super unisex in my opinion. Even though it's a white floral, it's soft. The green components are in abundance, and I feel that it adds to the freshness. It's not a dark green, it's a fresh green, and it's making this a unisex orange blossom fragrance. It's really nice. And there's something almost earthy about the green, like I'm smelling fresh green herbs, fresh green leaves that come along with this musky, soft floral. The hints of floral, they're really green with the orange blossom and this sort of orachy iris component as well. So there is honey in here. There's a little bit of sweetness that comes along with this like ambery honey, but it's minimal. It's not a sweet fragrance. Not a super sweet orange blossom fragrance, a fresh orange blossom fragrance, really nice. It's really perfect for this warm weather as well. So this is L'Or de Louis from Arquiste. So the next one is from the House of Penhaligons, and this I do have a full bottle of. This is Orange Blossom. I recently added this to my collection. I've worn it a few times. I have to get to know the fragrance better, but I absolutely adore this. This was a great orange blossom scented fragrance to add to my collection. It does have a twist, and I think the twist is the tuberose in here. So this is a 2010 release from the House of Penhaligons, although originally the 2010 release is a re-release of the original 1976 version of Orange Blossom. So this has been around for a while. The 2010 release, the nose behind the fragrance is Bertrand Duchefort. The fragrance is a complex orange blossom fragrance that has other florals in here as well. There's tuberose that definitely plays along with jasmine as well, together with the orange blossom. But I would say that the orange blossom at the end of the day outweighs the other florals in here, but you absolutely detect the tuberose, in my opinion. So it's an orange blossom neroli fragrance. It opens bright, it opens fresh. There is some sweetness, and it's really evocative of the summer season. Like I said, it's bright and it's almost playful, but at the same time, it's sort of a refined orange blossom neroli fragrance. It's really well done. And aside from the orange blossom, the tuberose, the jasmine, there's also rose, and there's also a peach blossom in here. So the heart of the fragrance is really floral. And like I said, the orange blossom sort of competes with the other notes in the fragrance, but it wins out in the end. It's more about this creamy orange blossom, and it is a fresh fragrance. And the brightness, as this dries down, is met with the woody aspects. So that brightness kind of subsides, and you have cedarwood and sandalwood in the base. And it is a little bit musky, but I would say that it's a creamy orange blossom, and there are slight spicy hints. I think there's cardamom in here, as well as pink pepper, and there's also violet leaf at the top. But in the end, it's a great orange blossom fragrance where the tuberose does come through. It's a creamy orange blossom where this tuberose comes through, and as it dries down, it's less floral, it's less bright, and the woody components sort of meet this orange blossom. And it's a great fragrance. It's a complex composition, and I think this is one of the great ones from Bertrand Duchefort, although the last one on this list is another Bertrand Duchefort fragrance, and it's one of my favorite fragrances. So we'll talk about that one, but let's move on to the House of Guerlain with this little mini of Herbe Troublant. I think I'm saying that correctly. Herbe Troublant is a musky fragrance, an herbal fragrance, a fresh fragrance, an orange blossom fragrance. I really, really like this. Wasn't going to commit to a full bottle. Yes, they're pricey. This scent profile is very simplistic. So when you talk about these simplistic scent profiles like this one or Musc au Très Blanc, it's difficult for some people to wrap their head around the price point of these fragrances. But we're talking just about what it smells like. I own this mini one right now, and I do think it smells fantastic. And I do think it's a beautiful, fresh one for the summer and the warm weather. Like I said, it's musky, and it's an herbal sort of take on orange blossom. The orange blossom is delivered in a musky, sort of translucent fashion so that it's not as creamy and full-bodied and sweetened as some of the other fragrances that feature orange blossom. I love orange blossom fragrances, but here it's more musky. Here it's more of a clean scent profile. Here it's green and herbal. So I think there's thyme and there's mint and there's even rosemary in here. So it's really an herbal fragrance. It's almost culinary. It's like thyme and rosemary are herbs that I use when I make roast chicken, and the mint just adds to that sort of clean, effervescent scent profile that this is meant to be, the freshness. It's kind of a nice complement to the orange blossom, the freshness that the orange blossom gives you. So in the opening, this is herbal, and I thought that before I read notes on this, I thought that it smelled like basil. I use basil a lot. I use parsley a lot as well, but it's definitely a nice green, fresh herbal scent, and it's beautiful. And it's not culinary because right behind it, you have the hints of the orange blossom. Even though it's a musky white fragrance, it's like crystal clear white in color, and that's what it smells like. It's white, but there's a sweetness right behind the herbal opening. So it's really quite nice. It's really fresh, and I really do enjoy this. And I will consider a full bottle of this. It's something that I would like to add to my collection before the summer is over. So this is a really nice one, in my opinion, by the House of Guerlain. Herb Troublant. Next, going to the house of Dior, this is a quite big and heavy bottle of Dior Amour. This is light pink, and I absolutely love this. And I think this is an all-weather fragrance, but I've been wearing this, enjoying it. There's no dent because it is fairly new to my collection. So this is a 2018 release from the house. The nose behind the fragrance is Francois Demachet, and this, even though on Parfumeur, it says that it's iris and jasmine and animalic notes, whatever those animalic notes are, I don't know. What I get here, I don't really get jasmine. What I get here is iris. It is powdery, it is smooth and creamy and delicate. And if you like Celine fragrances with that orris butter, with that sort of powdery component, smooth and creamy, you would like this one. This one is great. And before I even saw what the notes were, I wore this and thought, this is powdery and this is almost makeup-like powdery, which I'm loving, and it's smooth and it really comes off high quality, but there's something leathery about this. There's a sort of texture to the fragrance, and I could not quite put my finger on it, and I thought that I was imagining things because just looking at this light pink juice, the last thing that I thought, and the name, Dior Amour, Amor in Italian, amore, is love, and it's just not what I expected. Now, I'm not saying that it's a dark, harsh leather or dark, smoky leather, but it's textured. It's a textured fragrance. So this powdery iris, this smooth, almost makeup-like buttery aspect to the fragrance has a backdrop of something almost leathery, like a white, smooth leather. And it just adds a dimension to the fragrance. I really enjoy this, really like this. And it's one of those fragrances that can sort of be a signature scent. Now, I don't have a signature scent. I'm always trying to get to certain fragrances so that I can review them and talk about them. So that's a challenge for me. So for me, there's not a signature sort of fragrance in my collection, but I feel like this one could be that sort of signature scent. It's easy to wear, and if you like the iris powdery type of fragrance, like I said, with this almost suede-y, smooth white leather backdrop to add dimension to the fragrance, and you like almost a makeup powdery aspect that comes along with iris in some fragrances, then this one is one to get your nose on. It's not sweet, so I like that it's not a sweet fragrance. It might be mildly sweet at most, but mostly it's an iris fragrance, and I'm really liking this one. So this is Dior Amour from the house of Dior. The next one is from a house that I don't really hear anyone talk about, and I'm fairly new to this house myself. This is from the house of Chabaud, and this is La Nuit Danse. And this, for those of you that like powdery fragrances, like high-end pressed powder makeup, this one is one to get your nose on. It's a few things in one. It's fresh, it's powdery, it's floral, and it's violety. The color is a purple color. I love it. It's so fitting. So the fragrance has bergamot, which accounts for the freshness in here. And then there's jasmine and violet, although I get violet more than I get the jasmine. And there's something they're calling floral notes. I have no idea what that is. The florals are soft and powdery, and I'm getting mostly violet. And then there's a rice powder accord in here. So that accounts for the powderiness, although violet goes powdery in fragrance as well. So it's a powdery fragrance, it's a fresh fragrance. It is, in my opinion, a high-end compact of makeup with sort of a scent to it, a violety, soft, floral scent, violet petals. That's what I'm getting. I'm imagining violet petals. It's really nice. It reminds me a little bit of La Peau Nue by the House of Celine. Actually, it's listed as a fragrance that smells like this one on Parfumeur, and it really does smell very similar. This almost has a musky delivery, even though musk is not listed, as does La Peau Nue by Celine. So I really like this. It's easy to wear, very feminine, almost ethereal, and this is an extrait concentration. So I want to try their patchouli fragrance, Patchouli 1973, although I heard that it's sort of a dark fragrance, maybe masculine leaning. There's an amber fragrance in this house that I would like to try, and I ordered, blind buy, I ordered Il Mythique by this brand. So we'll see what that's all about. I think it's an incensey fragrance. It should be interesting. It sounds interesting, but this one is great. So if you like powdery fragrances, try this one, La Nuit Danse. So lastly is from the house of L'Artisan, and this is Dzongkha. So I have so much to say about this fragrance. This is the new packaging, the smoky gray green bottle with the black cap. I thought the cap was plastic and cheap, but it's actually not. So this is my first bottle in this new packaging. All of my bottles from L'Artisan are the clear bottles with the gold caps. I guess now we call those vintage fragrances from the house. And then when they repackaged all of the fragrances, I guess the house was taken over. I'm not sure by whom, but it was taken over. And they went to these bottles, which I'm not really a big fan of, but they are higher quality than I expected. I thought the caps were going to be cheap, and they're not. They're as heavy as the original bottles. They're just dark, and I'm not sure why they did that. I think aesthetically, I'm not really enjoying that. In any event, Dzongkha is a fragrance that I first tried out of this decant. I got this from Eugene from You Smells Good. When I purchased one of the fragrances from Les Abstraits, he sent so many fragrances, some of them being vintage, and I really do appreciate that because I got to get my nose on fragrances that I would otherwise have found it very difficult to get my nose on. So this is a vintage decant of Dzongkha, and I went through a lot of the juice here, and I really, really love this, really love it. So what I did was to search for the vintage, a little more difficult than getting your hands on a vintage Timbuktu, which I have. Now, Dzongkha and Timbuktu, they're both Bertrand Duchefort creations, so they are complex fragrances. They are absolutely both stunning fragrances. Timbuktu has been reformulated more than once. I think that's known. I was not sure. It was a blind buy for me, so I purchased this little one. There are similarities. The two fragrances are definitely connected in DNA, but like one of my subscribers mentioned in a comment, and he was right on point, Timbuktu is more about vetiver. You have to like vetiver. I do enjoy vetiver, and I do enjoy this fragrance. So I have this little vintage bottle, which is great, and that's nice, but having tested both of them now, I really do love Dzongkha more. And getting my hands on the vintage bottle is a little more difficult. There were a few, the prices were a bit exaggerated, and I wasn't willing to do it. And so I did some research, and I read that supposedly Dzongkha has not been reformulated. I'm not sure that I necessarily believe that. I think with the packaging, and I think just in general, I think the fragrances have gone through some reformulations. Now, this one is from 2016, so it's been around for a bit of time, and I ended up purchasing the current formulation. And I did do a side-by-side, and I'll talk in the end about some of the differences. Overall, they do have the same scent profile. Overall, I enjoy the scent profile. I love it. I would not say that the current formulation is different from the vintage one. I would not say that. I won't say that it's so far a departure that it doesn't smell the same. It does smell the same. The thing is, the openings are different. So we'll talk about it in a few minutes. So back to what this smells like and why I love it. So the note listing doesn't necessarily match how I want to describe this. It's a complex fragrance. It's Bertrand Duchefort, and I think his fragrances are complex. I also think most of them are beautiful, and I love his compositions. To me, this is a fragrance in the most general, broad description that's an interplay between this irisy, sort of creamy, powdery, clean aspect That interplaying against this outdoorsy green, fresh fragrance, not dark green foliage, a fresh green, but not like fresh, clean cut grass, an outdoorsy sort of green scent profile with this irisy sort of powdery component as well, I think plays a big role. I think it's creamy and powdery. And so the fragrance has a tea of masala chai. Masala chai is a tea that has these spicy components, so the fragrance has these minimal spices that run through it. They're not prominent and off-putting. There's cardamom, there is nutmeg, and they're just beautifully blended with this sort of lactonic quality and this slight sweetness that comes along with this masala chai aspect in this fragrance, this masala chai note in the fragrance. It's really beautiful, and I think it's what's giving me this creamy aspect along with this iris that goes powdery. And like I said, the other aspect is this greenery, this outdoorsy, this freshness. Beautiful, beautiful fragrance. I really enjoy it. I've worn it a few times in the summer. It's probably a fragrance for all seasons, but I had no problem wearing it in the warm weather. There are things that I don't get in this fragrance. Leather, I'm not perceiving leather. Peony, it might be a watery sort of floral hint maybe in the opening. To me, in the opening, right from the get-go, it sort of takes a few minutes for this fragrance to develop, but right from the get-go, I get an outdoorsy, fresh fragrance with something creamy and powdery. And I'm also getting dry component. There's papyrus in here, so it's quite dry as well. The frankincense is something that might be more prominent in the vintage version. It's not prominent to my nose here in this bottle. So back to the vintage version, the differences I would say when I sprayed side by side. I would say that the vintage version right from the opening is rich, complex, and the notes seem to be delivered in this sort of layered fashion, and it's maybe coming off more complex and rich. I don't know if that's because perfume ages and becomes more rich, just the natural sort of chemistry of perfumery. I'm not sure. This one, unfortunately, when I had this as a comparison, in the opening smelled like nothing. I thought I went nose blind. In the opening, I smelled nothing when I was doing the side by side, and I think that's because this was giving me everything, and this was giving me nothing, and it took a few minutes for this to dry down and sort of become the Dzongkha scent profile. It does get there. It gets there. This one is there from the opening. This one takes time to develop and get there. Another thing, top notes. Could it be that the top notes in the vintage version in this bottle have sort of left the fragrance to an extent, and so you're left with the mid portion and the sort of heart of the fragrance, while here we have a new bottle? I'm not sure. I don't know. But I would say that I would be in the market for a vintage bottle if it presents itself and the price is right and I'm willing to spend the money. Like I said, Timbuktu comes up more at more reasonable pricing. This one is a beautiful fragrance. I purchased this off of Fragflex with a coupon code, so I really can't complain. What I spent on this bottle of perfume, I can't complain. I was willing to do it. I took a chance, and I'm very happy, no regrets. It does smell like Dzongkha, and it has nice sillage, it has nice performance on my skin. So that's something that I also hear about the reformulations, suffering in performance. This one is fine, it's great. So this is the 8th and the last one in today's list of fragrance discoveries. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of these fragrances, if you own any of them, if you agree with my take on a lot of these, if you disagree, let me know in the comments. I'm always happy to hear your thoughts. And as always, thank you so much for watching, your support, and all of your comments. Until next time, bye guys.